Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We're going to cover a couple of important Kentucky political news stories in our news of the week. Then we're thrilled to be bringing you a panel of indivisible leaders from across the Commonwealth. We're excited to have with us Ezra Levin, a co-founder of the Indivisible Project. And then we're going to be joined by some important Kentucky indivisible leaders. Leslie McColgan from Melbourne Graves County with Four Rivers Indivisible. And then a crew from Bluegrass Activist Alliance, Harry Neek, Kim Davis, and Kelly Smith. And then finally, we're going to close out with our call to action. So should be an exciting show, helping folks process the just craziness that we've been through the past week or two here under the new Trump 2.0. But before we get into it, are you ready to help create a more compassionate Commonwealth? It's clear we're going to need long-term power building to create better policies and outcomes here in Kentucky. We hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our campaign to make that happen. Of course, there are two sources of political power. That's money or people. So let us know how you want to help. We're launching a couple of new committees as we speak, one focused on the General Assembly and another focused on rural engagement. We had our first rural engagement committee meeting this week. Really great conversations, some great ideas, and some great opportunities to help build more political opportunities in rural communities. So if you're in Kentucky, if you're progressive and you're fired up to help bring more progress to our state, let us know. We'll plug you into those efforts, or you can do the other thing. You can make a political contribution right now via our secure online website, Act Blue, to help turn Kentucky purple. $10, $20, $200. It all adds up to real political change. Unfortunately, none of it's tax deductible because we're a C4 organization. But let's check in with our co-hosts. Let us know who you are, where you are, what are you protesting today? You there on the internet. We'd love to hear your protest sign. What are you most concerned about right now? I know there's a lot to pick from. So you can put that in the chat and we can put it on the screen. So I'm Aaron. I am coming to you from Washington, D.C. tonight, usually in Lexington, but in D.C. for some work. My protest sign says, "I've seen smarter cabinets at IKEA." And then we will turn to Dr. Clardy. Are you there, Dr. Clardy?
Yes, I am. My sign says, "No way, no how, no Kash Patel." This is a dangerous pick to head up the Federal Bureau of Investigation. He has said that he has an enemies list. He is Trump's attack dog. We do not need another vindictive FBI director. We have seen this movie before with J. Edgar Hoover. We cannot go through this again as a country. It would be traumatizing to us as a democracy.
Yeah, for sure. Inappropriate pick. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Clardy. Always glad to have you on board. Kimberly, you there?
I sure am, Aaron. I am Kimberly Cecil Jones, and I'm coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. And also, sometimes I feel like I'm coming to you from hell, because that's what it seems like sometimes with this administration. But my protest sign says today, "Stop trying to make us dumb." When we have a congressman that the constituency sent to DC to do their work, and he wants to dismantle the Department of Education, it's evidently clear that he wants us dumb, uneducated, unknowledgeable to fight for our rights.
There we go. The Department of Education in the target right now. Pretty insane. So, I mean, how's everyone doing? Let me just check in with everyone. Like, I feel like this is, we're a Kentucky-focused news show, but we are a proud member of the Indivisible Network, and we know that this is a just tough time for a lot of folks, and we're going to hear, I think, from some great leaders and their perspectives on what we're going through right now. But how are you two doing? This is just a lot to manage. The news seems worse every day, and the kind of just disregard for a functioning government is profound in a way that I don't think we've ever seen before, at least in my lifetime.
You want to go first, Kimberly?
I can do that, Dr. Clardy. I'm not having a good time here. I feel exhausted, and as I see a lot of my Black leaders around the country, it just seems like nobody is really screaming the loudest And I don't know why that is, but I know why because I'm exhausted. And you cannot keep up with this current administration. You just can't keep up with it. And if you stayed on the pulse of everything every day, all day long, 24/7, you would actually literally go into a tailspin. So that's pretty much what's going on over here. I'm just waiting for the paddy wagons to, pick all of us up
Yeah.
and, and we go back to Jim Crow days because we're going at a very, very fast rate right now.
It does seem like we're moving backwards. Dr. Clardy, how are you hanging in there?
This feels like one long continuous nightmare. I feel that one day I'm going to wake up and it's actually going to be November 1st and that all of this was a dream. But the reality is it's not. We're in a very bad fix nationally and internationally. This president did not make it any better yesterday by promising to annex, or as it were, to control and occupy Gaza. He's made threats against Canada. He's bullied Canada. He's bullied Mexico, our two closest allies. He's provoked a trade war with the Chinese. I'm just waiting for that big shoe to drop. And the anxiety is deafening. The anxiety is crushing. So what I do for self-care is that sometimes when I come home from work, I don't put on the news at all. I just sit back and listen to some jazz, have a nightcap, relax, kind of unwind, and just go without the flow of information for a while because it's very upsetting. And this is an upsetting time for all people of conscience. And I urge all of you who are listening, please take care of yourselves. This is going to be a long 4 years. It's already been a long 2.5 weeks, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
I do want to say this, Aaron, very quickly, because I know we want to get to our Indivisible panel. But please, everyone, just think about our proud, more than competent servicemen and women all around this world that keep us safe on a daily basis. Because my daughter and so many other service people right now, they are freaking out like you wouldn't believe.
Yes.
They are freaking out because they're going to be the first line of defense, not us.
Yeah.
So pray for my daughter.
You got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Praying for those who are serving our nation, who made a pledge to the Constitution, to uphold the Constitution. They didn't make a pledge to a dictator, right, or a wannabe king. So I'm sure they're going to have some pressure and some tension in the work they're doing, because I don't think this guy's joking around about trying to take advantage of all the different powers that that our nation enjoys, right? That shouldn't be at the sole disposal of the executive, but he's going to try, right? We're seeing that right now. All right, so we're going to do news of the week. We're going to get a couple of stories before we get into our panel. But the first one, I think, for the news of the week segment is me. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about a news story about a new prison that is being proposed for Letcher County. The U.S. Bureau of Prisons is looking at a spot for a high security prison. Originally was a surface mine, flattened, some mountaintop removal mining, and now there's a flat spot where they're looking to build yet another prison in Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, which look, I get it. Eastern Kentucky has, kind of taken on the chin with the coal industry not being what it once was, but turning to the prison industrial complex really is a mixed bag. But Hal Rogers, who's never met a federal project that he didn't like, as long as it is extractive and isn't great for his constituents, he's championing a new federal prison in Letcher County. But what I think is most amazing about this story is that this new federal prison might be over before it really got started, because apparently they didn't lock down the land that they wanted to use. So the opponents of this prison actually bought land in the site that they plan to use. They bought the Appalachian Rekindling Project, bought 63 acres of land for $160,000 inside the footprint of this Federal Bureau of Prisons project, which just seems to me insane. And, I guess if DOGE is rooting out government inefficiency, then maybe they should look at the Bureau of Prisons, because it's just like, why would you ever announce a project before you've locked down all the land? So obviously this is, it's not over and kind of over and done with. There's certainly things they could do. They could move forward with the land acquisition process, which, absolutely could take the land, right? If they have kind of that need and agreed upon need. So, but this is really interesting. A lot of different folks are coming together to oppose this, which I think is wonderful. If you think about how these prisons work, they're putting a bunch of humans into these Eastern Kentucky areas. Obviously, the state of Louisiana is leaning in for more incarceration. The quote unquote Safer Kentucky Act, or the Suffer Kentucky Act, that makes being homeless a crime. That's going to lead to more arrests. Obviously there's a federal prison, so we'd see how that would relate or not. But it is absolutely unfortunate that they're building more opportunities for this, a population of incarcerated folks in Eastern Kentucky. The thing that's interesting is they will swell the population, so the actual census population for these areas, but obviously they're not voters, right? So you actually, because these are rural areas that have a lot of rural voters, which tend to lean more conservative, more deeply red, that means you actually get more representation for areas that have fewer voters per capita than other areas. So it's an interesting play by Hal Rogers to continue to build his district and build his ability to be safely ensconced in that district for as long as he wants to be there. But, we'll see what happens. Obviously, the government could go to court to try to acquire that tract through eminent domain. But I was really impressed by the coalition of groups that came together to oppose the prison, and they found the resources to buy that huge tract of land right in the middle of the footprint, which score one for the little guys, I guess, right now, for sure. Dr. Clardy or Kimberly, any thoughts about that one?
Well, the bigger danger for me is something that's been bandied about over the last several years, that we are experiencing the creation of a prison industrial complex. And I do find that very problematic. I do find mass incarceration to be very problematic, and just honestly, and I don't mean this as a point of hyperbole, but slavery by another name. And just the idea of this, instead of rehab programs, instead of other diversion programs, we're talking about building more jails and warehousing more people. That has always gotten to me. And this is just another example of that.
Yeah. Kimberly, I know you care passionately about criminal justice. What are your thoughts about this one?
Yes, I do. I'm not surprised at all, because when they build, they're going to fill it up, which means that our people in Frankfurt are going to be making laws more stringent. And also, in addition to that, as we talked about last week about the prison system, it always ends up that it's the majority of Black men and Black women. So like Dr. Clardy said, and we said last week, this is a form of slavery. So I do hope that House Bill 121 can go through and that it can happen. It's a pipe dream, but I'm going to keep hope alive.
Oh, that's the anti-slavery one that does not allow for prisoners to be kind of put to work as an indentured servant, right? That's the Representative Brown's bill, I think.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah. So speaking of bills, the legislature's back in session. They went back in on Tuesday, promptly, went into action. And Dr. Clardy is going to tell us a little about one of their priority bills.
The General Assembly is back and determined to play Robin Hood in reverse. A bill that would further cut the state income tax rate from 4 points to 3.5 points effective January 1st is headed to Governor Beshear's desk, and the governor has signaled the intention that he will sign the bill. I don't know why. I don't understand his logic in that. Maybe he believes that if he vetoes it, they'll get to call him a tax and spend liberal. They'll get to override his veto. I don't know, but It looks like here again, the rich are going to get another bonus package and another bonanza. This bill, of course, is sponsored by House member Jason Petrie, Republican of Elkton, who is the chair of the House Appropriations and Revenue Committee. And Republicans are salivating. They're really happy about reducing the state tax rates. But I think the one observation that Senator Cassie Chambers Armstrong said, and I think she's exactly right. She voted against it when it was in the Senate. She said she appreciated the intent of the General Assembly to give more money back to Kentucky. I like money. I get it. But we share the same concern that cutting the tax rate probably won't benefit the wealthiest, that won't benefit the poorest people who really need the relief, and it will benefit the wealthy. That's why I said Robin Hood in reverse. And there's so many unknowns, and I think she's exactly right about this. The economy is still impacted by inflation. The president of the United States keeps talking about levying tariffs. Of course, that's going to drive up prices. When you cut taxes, you're going to start talking about reducing services, and programs are going to be eliminated because of this. And here again, we face another situation in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, much like we're going to face at a national level, where these irresponsible tax cuts are going to go for the people, and it's going to benefit the people who need it least. So that's my take.
Yeah, amen. It does. I mean, I will say this. I think politically, I understand why the governor's like, sure, I'll sign that one. But, I do think anyone who's concerned about the ability of our Commonwealth to, provide for the folks who most need the support, then this is just the wrong, one more step in the wrong direction, which, of course, the Republican Party's got us locked into, marching into the sea, basically, right? That the way they've got this set up, and they're gaming all the numbers to ensure they're able to keep bringing those cuts each and every year. Even when there's, inflation challenging economic growth in the state, they're figuring out ways to game those numbers, right?
And as long as they have these veto-proof majorities, they can do it with impunity. And especially, heaven forbid, we get a Republican governor next year, they'll just demolish the tax code.
Yeah. Kimberly, any thoughts on that one before we go to our panel?
Of course, I have a thought on that. Most definitely, when we hear about tax breaks, everybody is, all for it. There's the pep rally for it. We're cheering it on. But as Dr. Clardy said, trickle-down economics never works.
Never.
And I am happy to say this. There are federal judges all over this country that are putting a stop to a lot of stuff. And there are smaller countries that are they're saying, I don't care who you are. And that's how we need to be in Kentucky. I don't care if you're the majority. I don't care about anything. But the last time I checked, David conquered the giant Goliath.
There we go. That's what we need to hear. That's, I think, a good entry into our panel, right? So really excited to have with us now, a panel of great leaders who are working really hard to deal with what's in front of us. Like, as we heard at the top of the show, just everyone's processing this Trump second administration in a way that, with the way that they can, but we're looking for hope. We're looking for strategy. We're looking for the best way to work together to stop the worst ideas that are coming out of Washington, D.C. Via Mar-a-Lago. So really thrilled to have us with us right now, Ezra Levine, who is the co-founder of the Indivisible Project, which, if folks don't know, came out of the first Trump administration and built an enormous nationwide network of volunteers working incredibly hard to stop the worst ideas of the Trump administration. And we're thrilled to have him joining us today on Kernels of Truth. Ezra, how are you?
Doing as well as could be, considering the circumstances. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. And we're just, as folks know, if they listen to the end of our podcast every week, we are proud members of the Indivisible Network, and we're glad to be a part and be in community with this great group of kind of kick-ass good troublemakers. Love to see the king good troublemaker behind you there, who inspires us every day to do what we can. So tell us, you were there, you launched it in the kind of the initial days of the Trump 1.0. How does Trump 2.0 compare? How does it feel different? How does it feel similar? And how are you guys responding?
Yeah, gosh, there are some serious reverberations. There are some things that are different, things that are the same. Let's start there. In 2016, we won, in 2016, we lost, and it was a shockwave through the political system. But I think the public and I think the media largely misremembers that moment. There seems to be this rewriting of history that Donald Trump won in 2016, and then immediately the Democratic Party was the party of no. They're the party of opposition. They were unified and they were fighting back. The protest was the new brunch. Everybody was out there. It was as of early November. That's what it looked like. That is not how we experienced it. Instead, what we experienced back in 2016 that actually drove us to write the original Indivisible guide and start then working with the Indivisible groups that spawned all over the country. There were two events. One was an interview with a future Trump appointee who was talking positively, shockingly, about the Japanese internment camps during World War II as a model for what Trump might do with Muslims, immigrants, and refugees. Heinous, horrific, terrible, not unexpected given who this man is. But that's not what set us to write the Indivisible Guide originally. What set us off was then the following day, an interview with incoming Senate Minority Leader on the Democratic side, Chuck Schumer, who said, well, we lost. I guess that's what happens. We've just got to figure out a way to cut deals with Trump. That was what set us off, because it seemed to us in that moment that the near-term future for our country was going to be one in which America's internment camps were going to have roads paved with them with bipartisan dollars, that we had this Democratic Party that was not actually yet up to the task and needed to be encouraged. And that was frustrating to Leah and myself. Leah's my spouse and the co-founder of Indivisible, frustrating because we had lived through the Tea Party. We had lived through a moment in time where a popularly elected Democrat, Barack Obama, came in, was trying to push forward an agenda, and this movement rose up to say no to him and worked with an obstructionist Mitch McConnell-led minority in the Senate to slow down and in some cases stop some of that agenda. And so here we were facing down the barrel of the gun pointed at us by Donald Trump and his Republican majority in 2016. And the answer from those who should be leading the opposition was, well, what could we do to work with him? That was shocking. So in that same sense, we're looking right now in this moment when, look, I'm going to say it because Heather Cox Richardson says it, because Timothy Snyder, who's an expert on authoritarian, says it. There is an ongoing coup in this country. Elon Musk, an unelected foreign billionaire, is ransacking the federal treasury as we speak right now. They are breaking down the basic idea of separation of powers, the foundational idea underneath our constitutional republic. They are ignoring it blatantly and daring us to do anything. And in response to that assault on our democracy, there is not yet a unified opposition. And so how do we get a unified opposition? We got to organize. We got to push. So that is very similar. I think we can get there, but it's going to take some pushing. I think we're a lot better off right now with respect to unified opposition than we were 2 weeks ago. What's different, unfortunately, is the other side's much better prepared. Trump bumbled into the White House in 2016. It was almost accidental. It was a surprise as much to him as to anybody. The Republican Party had not yet been taken over by the MAGA freaks who now control it. They are prepared for this moment. They had Project 2025 ready to go, a 900-page document that wasn't just bumper stickers. It was a careful plan. They're getting ready to install into a position of power the architect of Project 2025, this guy, Russell Vogt, who they're voting on this week. So that's troubling. And it's all the more reason that we need a unified opposition now.
Yeah, hard to dispute any of that, right? So I think the unified opposition piece is very interesting, but I think Kimberly's got a question for you, Ezra.
First of all, I'd like to say hi, Ezra. It's been a long time since I saw you.
Yeah,
And
good to see you.
I was a part of Indivisible Kentucky from the end part of 2018. I was on the board of directors. My question for you is, and this might be a hard one.
I'll take it.
What is the most dangerous of the initiatives that the Trump team has launched in their first month? You've got so many to choose from. How do you choose?
That is a hard question, Kimberly. I'm not going to lie. There is a reason, though, why we're focusing on Elon's ransacking of the Treasury Department. This guy has access to everybody's social security number, and he's given it to a handful of 24-year-olds with absolutely no credibility, no authority, no expertise, no sense of security. And it's not just that Elon is an unelected foreign billionaire. That's bad. What is really scary is we have a system of government that is designed to separate the powers so that it can accurately reflect the will of the people and not devolve into absolute chaos and devolve into authoritarianism. And the whole idea of Project 2025 is to get rid of that separation of powers, concentrate power in the hands of the White House and the political appointees of that White House, so that the president can do whatever he wants. And I think there are a lot of folks who saw Trump's election and saw him winning votes on the basis of folks being frustrated by the price of bread and the price of eggs, reasonably so. Saw people willing to roll the dice and say, well, I don't want more status quo, so I guess I'll see what Trump is able to do. And they thought, well, maybe he'll address that. Maybe he'll rock the boat a little bit, but start addressing those concerns, because those are the folks who elected him. And then there were a set of us who said, this guy's Mussolini. This guy wants to be a dictator. This guy wants to undermine our constitutional republic. He is a threat to our democracy. We got to do something about him. And unfortunately, what we've seen in the first 2 weeks is he does indeed want to attack that basic foundation of how this republic works. That is really scary, because what that leads to is a really dark place.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Dr. Clardy's got a question for you, Ezra.
I do. It's great to meet you, sir. I'm honored that you joined us tonight on our broadcast. We're, like you said, we're just 2 weeks into this. 85 days from now, we will mark the first 100 days of his presidency, and we've got a long way to go even before the midterms, not to mention the next presidential election. So where do you see the best opportunities to push back and block this president at this moment?
Well, let me say that what we can't do is just preach to the choir. We can't just organize the same people who have been organizing. We are not going to stall or stop the worst of what this guy is trying to do simply with people who voted for Kamala Harris. And of course, I'm one of those people. We organized a lot of those people. Our entire strategy for the next 2 years, and it's a short-term 2-year strategy, is built on two basic ideas. One, this guy's going to overreach. He was elected to lower the price of bread, and instead he's instituting Project 2025. He was elected to the lower price of eggs, and he's coming after the Department of Education, the Department of Labor. He's coming after your Social Security. He's trying to give handouts to billionaires. He's got no mandate for everything he is doing right now. That's not how he became president. But two, there's going to be backlash to that, and we can organize it. And that backlash is not just going to come from people who voted for Kamala Harris. It's not even just going to come from people who didn't vote and thought it didn't matter. It's also going to come from people who voted for the guy because they thought he was going to deliver something, and he's not delivering. So they're going to feel betrayed. And it's our responsibility as organizers all over the country, in blue places, in red places, in rural areas, in suburban and urban areas. We got to welcome those people in. We cannot say, I told you so. I told you this guy was Mussolini. I told he was going to do all that. Nuh-uh. You welcome him in. We need an ideologically diverse coalition of folks who can say no, who can link arms and say no, who can say, look, we might not agree on everything, but do you agree on demolishing the Department of Education? Do you agree on cutting Social Security and Medicaid? Do you think this guy should have access to the entire distribution mechanism for the federal government? What on earth is going on here? We can debate social policy. We can debate tax policy, but do we live in a constitutional republic or don't we? So now building that coalition means we got to pay attention to what's going on. day to day, week to week, because it's chaotic event after chaotic event. And we've got to focus on the issues that are actually a real threat to people where they feel that threat. And so in the last 2 weeks, what we saw was the first opportunity where we saw a lot of people who weren't paying attention suddenly started paying attention again. It was when Elon Musk and Trump and his cronies used the Office of Management and Budget to suddenly freeze all federal funds. And across the country, Medicaid portals went down across the country. Child care centers worried they weren't going to get their Head Start dollars said, hey, we might have to close down. Across the country, people were saying Meals on Wheels might not be delivering to our area anymore. And suddenly people said, oh my gosh, this is real. They're going for it. They're doing it. This is terrible. We got to do something about this. That's an opportunity. Look, if Trump were doing popular stuff, we would be in a tight spot. Don't get me wrong. We would be in tight. I'd still not like the guy, but it would be harder. Our opportunity is his overreach, but we got to take advantage of that.
And part of that, Ezra, I'm very, very disturbed about what happened yesterday. I'm afraid this man's going to get us into a war, and a bad one too.
I think we should be afraid of that. He has already attempted to start a trade war with some of our closest allies. And why is he doing that? I don't know. Why does somebody try to crash the domestic economy? Why would you try to do that? If you're a would-be authoritarian, why are you trying to crash the domestic economy? Maybe it's so you can try to claim powers to fix what you messed up. I don't know. All I know is we have majority support. Nobody voted for Elon Musk. It's not Elon Musk's money in the treasury. It's our money. And as long as a majority of folks oppose what's going on, and as long as we are organizing where we are, we're not going to win everything. Don't get me wrong. The Tea Party didn't win everything. We didn't win everything in the first Trump term, but we sure as hell can fight back. We can stop some things. We can slow down everything else. We can fracture their coalition. We can build ours. But that means we got to be organized. We got to push for a unified Democratic opposition. And we got to fight where we can, celebrate wins where we can, live to fight another day. That's what I'm going to be doing every day. Live to fight another day. Live to fight another day.
Ezra, thanks so much. I know we've gotten you a little bit longer than we said. I don't know if we're running into a bit of time.
That's my fault.
You can answer the questions more concisely. No, I appreciate it. Sure. And we had another one that I think is a really interesting one that I did want to throw at you. So you mentioned before, like when you launched, part of it was because the Democrats were just kind of ineffectual, like, oh, let's cut some deals because we lost, right? I think they've leaned into, some of the opposition stuff a little bit more, I agree. 8 years later. But why is it that like a group like Indivisible is still important and, is not just a functional arm of the Democratic Party? Can you tell us a little bit about like how those things interact?
Yeah, I think I speak for people all over the country who are like, why the hell do I have to do this again? What a pain in the butt. I got to organize? Jeez, I'd like to spend some weekends doing something else. Wouldn't it be nice if the Democratic Party just hopped to and suddenly was fighting as hard to save our democracy as the Republicans fight to tear it down? But what I will say is there is a deep, rich history in this country of social movements existing alongside the party structure, pushing the party to be better. And successful parties adapt to that reality. We are not an arm of the Democratic Party. I spend about half my time yelling at the MAGA fascists who are trying to tear down the country, and the other half of the time encouraging or yelling at the Democrats to actually fight back. My dream, and I hope we get there, is that we are linked arms and fighting together against everything to come. But what I know about many Democratic officials is that they need encouragement, and they either need a push to get there, or they need celebration when they do something right. It's carrots and sticks. It's carrots and sticks. It can't always be on the outside yelling. But if what your goal is just to say nice things and get access, you're not going to move them at all either. Now, to get there, that means you got to be paying close attention. You got to be organizing with your folks, and you got to recognize that every one of your elected officials wakes up every morning thinking, how can I get reelected? And that's not a knock on them. That's how politicians should think. But it means you got power. You just got to organize outside of that party structure, and you got to be able to be truthful about it. When they do bad things, you got to be able to call them out. And if you are fully just an arm of the Democratic Party, if you're just at the local level purely working to elect Democrats, that's your mission, it's going to be very difficult to hold them accountable. It's going to be very difficult to call them out. So look, I see in different parts of the country and at different parts of states, local indivisible groups have different kinds of relationships with the local party. In some cases, they work very closely together. In some cases, the local party is, I'll be frank, a total mess, ineffectual, sclerotic, doesn't do anything, views outside energy as a threat. Oh, well, we'll go around them. You don't have to work with partners who don't work with you. But if you find a useful partnership in individual elected officials or with party officials, more power to you. We're looking not for best friends in this fight. We're looking for allies who are strategically aligned with us in our goals. And I'll link arms with anybody on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Let's just align on
That's
where
right.
where we agree and where we find the
That's
common
right.
ground. And I think, right now, like the Democratic Party, I wouldn't want to be recruiting for the Democratic Party, because if you think of who actually decided these elections, there's a lot of people who just have no use for either party, right? And so we, a whole universe of people, if we're just the Democratic Party, come join the Democrats, like people, pots on both houses is where most of America is. So why in the world would we want to lock arms with that?
The Democratic Party has a lower approval rating than Donald Trump, far lower. And we just lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency. What did the Democratic Party at the national level do in response? They stuck with the House leadership, they stuck with the Senate leadership, and they picked the guy who was next in line for DNC already to lead the DNC. I'm not saying any of those folks needed to go or were the wrong people, but if you lose the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and you keep with all of your exact same leadership, maybe there does need to be some soul searching and some actual searching for leadership outside. So I'm happy to work with a Hakeem Jeffries. I'm happy to work with a Chuck Schumer. I'm happy to work with the new head of the Democratic Party. But if they're not aligned, we're going to be yelling at them. When I was at the Treasury rally we held yesterday, we had a couple thousand people out outside of the U.S. Treasury Department in Washington, D.C. We called for that call Sunday night. And at that time, no elected officials wanted to come. They were not interested. They thought that was a little bit aggressive. We don't know if we want to ruffle so many feathers. By 24 hours later, they were beating down our door. Can I get 2 minutes? Can I get 2 minutes? We had 31 senators and representatives speaking at that rally, and who muscled their way in at the last minute was Chuck Schumer, who gave a speech saying, "Fight, fight." And you know what happened? In response, the crowd drowned him out. Shut down the Senate is what they said. Shut down the Senate. That's what we should be doing. That's what we should be calling on. I'm not here to make friends with any elected official. I'm here to fight for our democracy. And if they want to fight with me, I'm all for it. But if they're not willing to fight with me, I'm not going to be quiet about it. And I'm not going to protect their reputation.
Nice. All right. Amen. All right. So I want to bring in our panel. I want to say thanks to Ezra. Hopefully you can hang out for a few more minutes. We've got some wonderful leaders from all across our Commonwealth. Leslie McColgan, who is with Four Rivers Indivisible, longtime leader in this space, one of the most inspiring Indivisible leaders in our Commonwealth. Does amazing work keeping her group engaged and moving forward in the ways that are strategic. I know, Leslie, you just had an event you did. I know you shared some pictures with us, and we'll put them up on our Facebook feed. But tell us a little bit about what you were doing and why you were doing it, and what was the response.
Okay, well, I went to the. I didn't get on the Zoom, but I did it on the YouTube last Sunday, and of course heard Ezra and everybody talking about the need to visit senators this week. And I thought we can do that because we have an office in Paducah for Mitch McConnell. And so didn't have a lot of time to get it organized and together, but we did, and ended up, at first I thought maybe we're going to have 2 people. I didn't know if we'd get to 5, but we ended up with 26 people showing up. 12 signed up on Mobilize, but other people just came because once it got out on social media that there was something going on, people wanted to come, and we made the front page of the Paducah Sun. I guess it's backwards, but there's that came out today, and everybody really, I think it was a really good event. Now McConnell's office is in a federal courthouse now. It used to be, and this is the first time we've ever visited it there. It used to be in a regular building where you went down a hall and could get buzzed in, and there was a mail slot. Now it's in the basement of the federal courthouse, and you can't even take a cell phone in there. and the staffer does not come into the office. So what we had to do was go through the metal detectors and tell them we were just there to deliver this piece of paper, and that we knew she wasn't there. And so went down to the basement and I just slipped it under the door. And then I came out and talked from the steps to the people that had gathered and talked to them about if we had been able to talk to her in person, this is what the questions I was going to ask. And I used the talking points from the Indivisible Google Doc page to make our document. That I probably got that here somewhere too. Maybe.
Well, that's awesome. I think, just showing that, look, that the Indivisible kind of project is able, puts out really useful documents, really helps people put these events together, and helps recruit as well, right? Because there's a lot of interest and energy right now in opposing what is happening. I think a lot of people are super aghast at, just the worst instincts of this administration. But, the people respond and they're going to show up. But we got to give them a useful way to do it. And that's what I kind of love about Indivisible is it's smart, it's strategic, and it's well resourced in terms of giving you the tools you need to do it. And great media coverage, which we know that Mitch's staff, even though they don't want to hear from us, they don't want to see us, they're going to see the media, right? And his constituents are going to see that he's hiding and not doing what I think is a very reasonable thing, which is hear from folks who are concerned about what Trump's up to. All right, so I do want to pull in some other folks. Really excited to have the Bluegrass Activist Alliance with us as well. Kim Davis, Kelly Smith, Harry Niak. I'm not really sure if I say your name right. I've said it many times. I'm never really sure if I'm saying it right, Harry. But I'm so glad you guys are here. I want to hear from you each, kind of what's firing you up right now? What do you want to do? How do you want to get people involved? And are you ready for more people to join this movement? Because I think again, Elon and the Felon doing a lot of recruitment for us right now in terms of the horrible stuff they're doing. And the more we can characterize it, the more we can point out the dangers and the risk of it, I think the more people are going to really rally to our efforts to hold them accountable. So say hi, let us know about what you're working on right now. So we'll start with Kim and go Kim, Kelly, and Harry.
My name is Kim Davis. I'm known in circles around Lexington as the real Kim Davis, as opposed to the infamous Moorhead former woman who would not grant the gay couple marriage license. I've been a member of Bluegrass Activist Alliance pretty much from the beginning. We started out as Together We Will Bluegrass right after the election, and then became Bluegrass Activist Alliance and affiliated Indivisible now. We were going really strong before the pandemic, and it's kind of slower. We do have a big online presence. We do a lot of call to actions. We protested our, what's all that's a good thing to do now because it didn't work before. So we're trying to reorganize a bit, get some new membership, see what we can do to get the felon out of the White House. And my sign this today would be, I can't believe I have to protest this, So.
Thanks, Kim. And Kelly, how about you?
Yeah, so just building on what Kim said, my name's Kelly Smith. I live in Lexington. I think Bluegrass Activist Alliance had a lot of involvement, in-person involvement, a lot of activities before the pandemic, and it kind of slowed things down a little bit. We maintained our online presence, have a huge membership base. Now we need to mobilize that and build our capacity. I think an opportunity for us is to actually continue to focus on building a base of local progressive candidates, even in nonpartisan races. I think I was just doing some reading, and apparently the number of states where one party controls everything has hit a 70-year high. 40 out of the 50 states, the party controls the governorship and the legislature. 23 of those are Republican and 17 Democrat. And that that was not by happenstance. That was a very targeted strategy to build a local base and give support to local candidates. So I think that is something that I'm excited about continuing to do. And I know everybody is very excited about, fighting against Trump, and definitely we have to do that too, but we can't forget the local stuff. So I think that's a good opportunity for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Can't agree more, Kelly. Harry, how about you?
Hey, I'll take another aspect from what Kelly said and talk more about our focus sort of on the Indivisible side being a more national federal engagement. We had, like Kim said, we were sort of, she was from the Together We Will group, and I was in the Indivisible Bluegrass, and we melded the groups because we had a lot of the same membership and a lot of the same goals. And so we definitely nailed the local stuff since Trump's first round, and we did a great job, especially with Meet the Candidates series. But now we want to get back to our Indivisible roots, that side where we can give our members actionable things to do, because we know that now is the time. We're recruiting. It's like was said earlier. Now these people are recruiting for us, and it's just like in 2017, and we are getting more and more people who just want something to do. So we're going to try to give them things from Indivisible, even ACLU, Move On, different organizations have things that need to be done that we want to make sure our members can get involved with. And people just want this right now, and we want to create a space and re-engage the people that we had before and recruit more members, and just become another lively presence that we used to be.
That's awesome. I think the area, the region, the state is hungry, I think, for more viewpoints. I think politically, I think any progressive voices have been, largely shut out, except for maybe at the local, the most local level in certain communities. Even there, the fight is real. But at the State House, as we're covering with our earlier stories, there's not a lot of hope right now. It's a super duper majority by the Republicans. They're not doing anything useful for our state. But it seems like the prospects for more progressive leadership, it's going to take work. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of educating a lot of folks about why those policies aren't what's in our best interest. So glad to hear you guys are doing that work and helping to energize and educate folks, because it is like the Met. And one of the reasons we started this show, the national stories get all the attention, right? But it's critically important that people, understand the policies that are happening at the state level and the local level that really are impacting their lives, often more frequently. I will say this: it seems like that's a challenge that Elon Musk is stepping up to in terms of how to make sure that the federal engagement is hitting people's lives in a very real way. But I would like to turn to this whole panel though, Leslie as well. What's giving you hope right now? In terms of the fight that we're in, because it is, as we said at the top of the show, it can be really overwhelming to see what's happening. But Leslie, what's giving you some hope? And then we'll go around in a circle there. Oh, you're muted, Leslie. Sorry. I think. Okay. You're good. I got you now.
So what's giving me hope is, for one thing, is that we're trying something new and that we haven't done before. And we have some unique challenges here because we're very rural and our Indivisible group is very spread out. We're going from Southern Illinois down to Hopkinsville, Kentucky. So we can't really operate in the same way a lot of the other groups do in terms of actions and things. So we had an opportunity to take, where I am going to publish the West Kentucky Journal, which is an online news source in this area that's been around since 2008. And the publishers, it was a couple that was doing it, and he passed away. And so it's established, and it's not, they were somewhat progressive themselves, but it's known as a kind of nonpartisan news source. And so we're using that to get to try to get out of the bubble a little bit, and also to get information out there. So we're going to try to do, like everybody says, local stories, if we're talking about national policy, we're tying it to a local person. And one of the first stories that I did was this one that's at West Kentucky Journal. It's about Medicaid, and it's about this guy here, Tamel Lee, who is a recipient of some really important waiver services that affect every aspect of his life. He gets different services from the Supports for Community Living waiver, and they're targeting in that right now. They may try to get rid of all these home community-based waivers. So that was a story where we tied the national to the local, and we just published that. So we're trying to kind of work our way into this and also have a faith-based component. We've got 3 Christian ministers in our group that write well and are interested in trying to take policy and get the spiritual, the morals, the values, because that's what speaks to people in this area. Because this is a very, we have some diversity, but it's mostly, it's a Christian area. And a lot of people feel that, the message that a lot of people get in their churches is not very well aligned with the kind of values that we think of helping the poor and programs like that. So that's given me hope that we've got something new that we're doing. That's and awesome. Also we did a survey to where we got a lot of information about our group, and it's informing what we're doing now.
That's so cool that you've got that, kind of communication happening, both the kind of one to many with the school, with the kind of newspaper, and then the hearing from your members as well. Harry, anything that's giving you hope right now in these challenging moments?
And then the call Sunday night that had, I think it was something wild, tens of thousands of people on it for Indivisible. We're getting back together again. We know that there are other people out there. I think the other side, the opposition, wants us to be afraid and wants us to feel alone and helpless. And that's why they're sort of ramming this stuff over us to make us overwhelmed. But seeing people together and knowing that other people are here, trying to do our best, even in places that are very red, it's very encouraging. And just to see people who have the same, we know that we're out there. And we just have to touch base and link arms. And that's what makes me happy.
That's awesome. Kelly, how about you?
This is a little bit of a tough one for me because I'm kind of in the spot where I am feeling overwhelmed and kind of want to prevent myself from feeling that overwhelmed. So when Kimberly and Dr. Clardy were talking about, going home, not watching the news immediately, taking some time, connecting with people, I think right now, honestly, that's keeping me okay. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we all need to, moderate our intake. And like I said before, it's so easy to just drown yourself in the federal bad news coming out of DC. And it's, to what end? Right?
I just thought of one other little thing. So I do know that this is a strategy, this flurry of stuff, like just keep throwing stuff at us, and that way stuff will get hidden. A lot of the things he's doing are going to get overturned like they did the first time. So that is something that I keep trying to remember, that a lot of this is not going to stick. So that is helping a little bit too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Kelly. How about you, Kim?
Well, I asked my 93-year-old mother this question today, and I can't come up with anything better than what she said. She said, what gives me hope is the belief that what we're doing is right. And she's a very politically motivated person. And one of the people that I go to when I'm feeling down and need a little lift, she tells me, keep on seeing this come and go, and it will work out. Not sure how, but it will. Also, I have a group of really close friends that we check on each other almost daily now. I don't know what I'd do without them. Usually one of us is in a good place when the other one's in a bad place. And I don't know what I would do without them.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So, take care of the ones you love for sure. Keep an eye on the people that are going through this stuff and are feeling it maybe a little bit harder. I think, there's a lot of folks right now that are hearing, kind of really realizing it in a way that maybe they didn't 8 years ago, that's hitting folks in a little more profoundly. Maybe 8 years ago you weren't a voter and, you just were like a little bit more checked out. But I do think, Harry's point about there's a lot of folks who are kind of coming to this movement right now, and they can get a lot of hope from a lot of young, fired up activists as well, folks we can work with, folks we can, help give the tools to be as impactful as possible and grow our groups as well. So anything you want to like put a final call to action to your groups, how folks can connect with you, what you want them to do, any way that, kind of that recruitment call to action. We always like to, again, this is not a talking head show. This is about, making a difference and getting engaged. And I think you guys are incredibly well positioned to do that. So, let us know. And we'll start with Leslie.
In terms of, I'm sorry, but in terms of how people can help.
Exactly.
In terms of the people in our area that can help.
Sure. Or people across the Commonwealth.
Well, we have distributed fundraising. We can always use some more donations. We can always use more members. And when members join, we like them to participate. I think that's always the hardest thing, is getting feedback and participation. The survey helped because I didn't think we'd be able to get a lot of people to respond to it. And we've gotten 80 out of, there's like 200 in the Facebook group, and we've gotten about 80 people to respond. And I was really inspired by the response. That was another thing that inspired me, was the responses that I got. But they could, when we're doing actions like the one that we just did, or anything that we're doing, if people just give us feedback and let us know that they know what we're doing and respond to it, even if they have criticism, that's okay too.
Well, yeah, and we'll put the link to your distributed fundraising in the show notes, so anyone who wants to help out for Rivers Indivisible can do so. And Harry, Kelly, Kim, what's next for Bluegrass Activists Alliance? How can people engage with you guys and help your fight?
Sign up and join in the group. We've gotten a lot of requests lately to join. We're hoping to possibly post more frequently on some calls to action. People love to have a script or just something. They want to be told, call about this. So they don't have to decide. You give them, a number of a bill to call about, give them the number. They will do that rather than have to look up the information themselves. Our members are very good about that. We have a private Facebook page and a public one as well. Our website is kind of being updated, but you can always reach out to one of us.
Awesome. Any final thoughts from Dr. Clardy or Kimberly? We've gone a little bit long, but I want to give folks a final, opportunity to say what they want to say.
I just want to quote my hero, Frederick Douglass: agitate, agitate, agitate. That's the one way that we're going to succeed. That's the one way we're going to save our democracy. And this is the one way we're going to save the human race.
Awesome. Kimberly?
I just believe that, our wonderful, wonderful congressman, John Lewis, he said, good trouble. Just keep up the good trouble. Eventually we'll keep chipping and chipping and we'll get something accomplished.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I just want to say thanks again to the Indivisible Roundtable for joining us, sharing their actions, sharing, what they're working on and how people can get engaged. And again, you all gave me hope. So, that's what these networks, I think, really are for, is our ability to kind of come together, find opportunities and make a difference. So thanks again. Thanks to Ezra for joining us. And I do have one call to action that I want to leave folks with. As folks know well, that the Trump cabinet is shaping up to be a cast of wholly unqualified Fox News faces, billionaires and multimillionaires, Mar-a-Lago hangers-on and sex abusers, allegedly. But the four that are in front of the Senate right now, holy crap, right? An anti-vax liar for Secretary of Health, a pro-Putin propagandist for national security head, a maggot with an enemies list for head of the FBI, the author of Project 2025 to direct agency policy for the entire federal government. These 4 folks are beyond unqualified. They are dangerous. So I'm urging everyone to take a minute right now. Send a message to Mitch. Mitch did the right thing on Defense Secretary Hegseth. It wasn't enough, unfortunately, but Mitch is showing some independence. Rand Paul, not so much. But I think these what we're calling the WTF4. These folks are just absolutely should be non-starters for any rational member of the Senate. But the Trump administration is putting the pressure on. They want all the Republicans to back all 4 of these horribly unqualified and dangerous individuals. So we need to take a minute right now, click through the link, send your email to Mitch, follow it up tomorrow, during business hours, and put calls into his offices. We got the phone number and a follow-up email that'll come your way as soon as you take action. The reality of it is he does not want to hear from us. He does not make it easy to get through to his offices. You can't leave a message on most of his phone numbers. They ring and ring, busy, busy, busy. So you're going to need to keep calling, but they know what people are going through to get to them. So let's keep the pressure on, make the phone calls, but start off with an email so that that your name did end up in their office opposed to these horribly unqualified individuals. All right, that's our call to action for tonight, as well as helping out all these great indivisible groups throughout the state. Those links will be in our show notes. I'm going to turn it to Kimberly to close us out.
I'm just going to say tonight was a fabulous, fabulous show. This is going to go down in the history books. And also, I just want to make this other little comment that I don't know if everybody knows, but Mitch McConnell, he failed today. So I don't like anybody to be, hurt or anything like that. But he might not have a say in some things, and that could kind of work towards our favor a little bit. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance for Voter Engagement, otherwise known as CAVE. And we are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Please join us next week. Production of episode 196 was by Parker Williams. Thank you so much, Parker. You did a fabulous job. And the music that you heard came from our very own Nate Orshan, who performs our theme song. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. And everybody just say it with me, natosongs.com, N-A-T-O songs.com. Head on over there when we get off of this and listen to his new song. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcast and our show notes are always available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and just about wherever you get your podcast. If you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review wherever that you may listen. Logo and some graphic content was provided by Couchfire Media. Please, everyone, share this phenomenal show tonight. It will give you inspiration and hope in these very, very hard and dreary times. So until then, we look forward to seeing you next week.